Yahoo, Mina! Rampart was a real hit in the arcades from Atari Games and got ported to just about everything, including the NES. But that Jaleco release version is not what I'm reviewing today. In Japan, the NES's progenitor, the Famicom, got its own port of Rampart in 1991 from Konami of all people. Does this mean that it's a surefire winner, or is it a cannonball to run from? Actually, I don't think that pun worked very well, but anyway. Rampart's basic objective is to defend your fortress during the attack phase by blowing up incoming attackers or your opponent's ramparts. When the battle phase is done, the rebuild phase starts, when you need to place Tetris-like blocks to rebuild the ramparts and enclose your fortress and potentially others before the time runs out. If you do so, play continues, and if you enclose other fortresses within your territory, you will gain more cannons in the next battle phase. Failing to re-enclose your fortress will lead to defeat. Konami took Rampart and made some tweaks to its gameplay to give it further staying power. Rampart, as it is in pretty much every other version or port of the game, is a fun enough experience to while away 30 minutes or so, but the gameplay tweaks that Konami has made to this version, especially in one-player mode, make it much more addictive. In one-player mode, you're presented with 4 scenarios of increasing difficulty: a practice mode set in a World War II setting, a fairy tale-based easy mode, and a normal mode with a fantasy medieval structure. And last, the hard mode, which is set in the Sengoku period, the Warring States era of Japan. Each of these scenarios is split into a number of stages. On starting a stage, you can sometimes choose where your starting fortress will be, place and set a number of attackers, and then you'll enter the battle phase. Ideally, you want to destroy your attackers during this phase, but you can also destroy your own ramparts if you think it will make rebuilding easier during the rebuild stage. In addition, Konami made some enemies such as whirlwinds that are indestructible, and also little critters such as mice and spiders that swarm in on most stages during the rebuild phase, but more on that in a bit. But during your attacking phase, these can also be taken out with your attacks. To clear an individual stage, you need to either destroy all of the enemy forces within a set number of turns or reach a certain score to exceed the clear points level. You gain score points by defeating enemies and enclosing further territory during the rebuild phase. Successfully do so, and you'll gain extra attackers to bolster your attacking power. In addition, Konami's Rampart and Famicom adds twists to some of the campaigns, such as capturing a treasure chest to obtain a key to get to the next stage in a fancy medieval scenario, or enclosing your grandma's house to escape the baying wolves in the fairy tale scenario. And of course, the standard Rampart rules apply. Fail to enclose your fortress or a fortress during the rebuild stage and it will be game over, though you can continue and passwords are doled out on completing a stage. But Konami didn't stop there, in the one-player mode at least, because along with the main enemies that attack you during the attack stage, the previously mentioned smaller enemies that swarm in twist the frenetic nature of the gameplay during the rebuild phase up to 11. These small enemies during the rebuild phase will make a beeline towards your fortresses, progressively hampering your ability to rebuild your ramparts, as blocks cannot be placed on top of them. However, if you manage to enclose any of these little enemies or the other bigger enemies within your ramparts during this phase, you will eliminate them. This small tweak re-amps up Rampart and the Famicom's staying power in one-player mode and makes it a much more compelling experience that you'll want to get through. There is, of course, a 2-player mode as well that comes with a slew of options such as a clear point level, the starting number of cannons, the theme, as well as the time allocated to attacking and rebuilding phases, which curiously was very hard to control accurately, as the numbers sped up and down a bit too fast, as well as many other little tweaks that you can make to a first-to-3 wins battle of the wits. This was definitely fun, but felt much more like a standard Rampart game, as the small enemies that obstruct your rebuilding as in the one-player campaign are absent in 2-player mode. In this regard, I personally found the single-player campaigns more fun in this version of Rampart. Overall, Konami did make the best version of Rampart here, and at the time, those outside of Japan, unless they imported this version, really missed out. The game has a huge amount of charm, with simple but good graphics, and the amusing feet tickling the victor in a 2-player experience gets to inflict on a defeated opponent was weird, whimsical, and brilliant all in one. And of course, being Konami, the sound design is good. Not their best, but far from bland. Overall, this is a very well-rounded arcade to home port for the Famicom. When it comes to rating Rampart, it may seem harsh to rate this as 3 stars out of 5 or good, but this isn't a knock against Konami's work here. It's more a reflection of mine that as time has passed, the core concept of Rampart has less long-term staying power with me. Konami did, however, create a version of it here that does have a lot more single-player staying power, though once it's completed, it could be quite a while before you come back to it. The two-player game, though fun, is still a 30-minute blast for me, and then I'm ready to move on to something else. Japanese language difficulty-wise, I rate this game as none, but with a caveat. In some stage introductions, the objectives are explained obviously in Japanese, and understanding these will help you clear a stage. Generally though, it's pretty obvious when you're on a stage that requires you to enclose an object, such as a house, an obviously different looking tree, and so on. So long as you surround these with your ramparts, you'll clear the stage. If you are learning Japanese, I'd rate the level as conversational, as though it's in hiragana. The wording is a little bit more than the basic travel Japanese, and it's enjoyable if you can understand it, as there's some real kooky humour in there too. That all said, a good amount of the game is already in English. If you would like to support the channel and it's running, via the Patreon link in the video description, I've posted my translation of the two-player setup screen, and you can join today from just $2 a month. If, however, you prefer, there's also an English translation patch available. Kaito!
Hey everybody, I dropped by to add some thoughts to the two-player mode that Rampart on the Famicom has. Like Saki has already said, Rampart is a game that is fun to play in two-player mode, but I found myself playing the game for longer periods during the single-player campaigns. But there is definitely fun to be had here for half an hour. Saki, was this a hard game for you to find?
No, not overly. It's not a particularly common game in Japan, mind, but you can find it on Mercari quite readily. But rarely for me, I actually bought a box copy.
Wow, yeah, that's because you have mostly loose cartridges of Famicom, isn't it?
Yep, that's right. That's why I present from a locked-up cupboard of games. I can't have a YouTube channel about retro gaming where I present in front of a bookcase full of cartridge-only games, huh?
Ooh, sick burn. And what did you pay for it anyway?
Let me think. Yes, I bought this in a local second-hand store in the Bali for about 1,500 yen, and I felt that was a fair enough price for something that looked like new old stock.
That's not actually too bad. Anyway, give Konami's Rampart a go, everyone. It's definitely worth your time.
As always, like, subscribe and all of that shit, and also check out this rad Rubbish Heap merch, available worldwide on Redbubble and Amazon. See the links below for how to purchase. I've been Saki Endo, and this has been a Rubbish Heap. じゃあねー。
体の芯まで熱くなるランパート Konami